That evening began like any other quiet night in my house, the kind that feels almost invisible until something happens that marks it in your memory forever. And even now, I still remember the softness of the light in my kitchen, the hum of the dishwasher, the TV, murmuring in the living room while I wiped crumbs from the counter and thought of nothing in particular. I had no idea that within an hour I would find myself sitting across from my son's best friend, having one of the most quietly powerful conversations of my life. My name is Laura. I'm 54, and if someone had told me a few years ago that a moment like that would unfold at my kitchen table, I would have laughed it off, because at my age you assume you've seen most of what life can throw at you. But that night proved me wrong. My son Josh had texted earlier asking if Mark could come over, and of course I said yes. Mark had been in and out of our home since middle school, a shy, lanky boy who grew over the years into a soft-spoken young man who always offered to help with groceries and still called me Miss Laura, in that half-playful, half-respectful way that made me smile inside. But when they arrived, I could tell instantly that something was different. The porch light glowed warm against the deep blue sky. The door opened with its usual slam, but their voices were quieter, heavier. Josh called out a distracted, "We're here, Mum," before heading straight to his room, and Mark followed behind. Shoulders slightly hunched, hands tucked into his hoodie pockets, eyes flicking up to me only for a heartbeat before drifting away again. I offered him food. He declined softly, and then they disappeared down the hall while I tried to pretend I was focused on the stack of mail in front of me. But I kept listening, hearing only the tone of their muffled voices. Not the words, low and uneven, like something inside one of them was cracking. A little while later, I heard Josh's door open, but only Mark stepped out. Josh had gone into a work call, apparently, and Mark hovered in the doorway of the kitchen like a kid trying to decide whether to run or stay. I asked gently if he was okay, and after a few shaky breaths, he sat across from me, not leaning back like he usually did, but folding himself forward, elbows on his knees, staring at the floor, while I poured him a cup of fresh coffee he never actually drank. The silence stretched between us, thick, but not uncomfortable. The kind of silence that carries something waiting to be said. When I told him he didn't have to talk, but he could if he wanted to, his eyes stayed fixed downward, his fingers fidgeting, and he finally whispered that he hadn't come over just to hang out. Something in me tightened, not fear, but awareness, and I told him to take his time. He said he needed to tell the truth about something, but he didn't know how. Truth has a way of shifting the air in a room, and I leaned in slightly, letting him know he wasn't in a courtroom but in my kitchen. He told me that this house had always been a safe place for him, that when he was younger and things at his own home were loud and stressful, hours felt calm, steady, like a breath of air he didn't get anywhere else. He told me that I'd always made him feel like he mattered, that he used to worry he was bothering me, and that for years he felt understood here in a way he never felt anywhere else. I listened quietly, my heart tightening in that tender way mothers feel when they realize they cared for someone more deeply than they knew. Then he said the part he had been carrying alone. He'd been avoiding our house for weeks, not because anything was wrong with us, but because the feeling of comfort here had grown so strong he didn't know how to handle it. He didn't want Josh to think he was crossing a line or using him. He didn't want to disrespect me. He didn't even know how to name what he felt, only that this house and the people in it meant more to him than he expected, and he didn't know what to do with that. I assured him gently that feeling connected wasn't wrong, and I reminded him that being understood is something most people spend a lifetime hoping for. He admitted he was scared of saying too much, scared of ruining the one place that ever felt like home. That word home hit me softly, not because of anything inappropriate, but because it revealed the emptiness he'd grown up with. I told him he hadn't disrespected anyone, that his honesty itself was respect. And little by little, his shoulders relaxed for the first time that evening. He told me he didn't want to run from things anymore, not from this house, not from the people who mattered, and he wanted to show up without pretending. I told him that sounded like a good start, and when he asked if I was okay with all of this, with his honesty, I told him I was truly. There was a quiet warmth in the room after that, the kind that only comes when two people finally speak the things they've kept buried too long. And for a few moments we sat in a stillness that felt healing instead of heavy. Then Josh's footsteps sounded in the hallway, and Mark whispered quickly that I didn't have to tell Josh anything until he was ready. I told him, of course, his truth belonged to him. When Josh walked in, cheerful and unaware, cracking a joke, Mark really smiled for the first time that night. And as we all sat together afterward, talking about ordinary things, I realized something quietly profound. The moments that change us don't always come with drama or noise. Sometimes they slip in softly, in kitchens lit by warm bulbs, in the pause before someone finds the courage to tell the truth, and they stay with you long, long after the coffee on the table has gone cold.